Hey guys, Dr. Seth. What's going on today? Today, I'm talking about food again, just because it's so important. So, how do you really know if food's bothering you or not? How do you really know? Like, what's the actual standard, and how do we really tell? And what are the symptoms if you do have some kind of food sensitivity? So, there's a difference between a food allergy and a food sensitivity. And I think that's where a lot of confusion comes, and I think that's where a lot of misinformation comes, and from a lot of doctors actually too. So a food allergy is an immediate reaction. It's like if you're eating a peanut or a shellfish and your throat closes, you get like hives everywhere right away. It's an immediate allergy, food allergy, and that's one part of the immune system. Well, another part of the immune system dictates food sensitivities, and food sensitivities can take up to 4 days for you to have some kind of reaction. And when you do have that reaction, we're going to talk about what that even looks like, because I think we've been trained to think, well, I eat a food, I didn't get diarrhea right away, so it doesn't bother me, you know? Whereas we know that certain foods can really irritate our immune system, and our immune system affects everything in our body. So why do we look at foods? Why are foods so important? Foods are so important because 80% of our immune system's in our gut, and our immune system's job is to protect us from the outside world. So if we're putting in foods to our mouth, outside stuff to our body multiple times a day, the immune system has to scan all that and make sure it's okay before it lets it in. So if our gut's damaged, if we have inflammation, or if we're eating just toxic foods, we're going to have more problems and symptoms from those. So how do you really know if you have food sensitivities? We know if we have a food allergy, right? Most people know, like, if I eat peanuts, I might die. Like, or if I eat shellfish, my throat's closing, or I get hives or whatever. But how do you know you have like a food sensitivity that's maybe causing inflammation in your body? It's leading to hormonal imbalances. Maybe it's leading to chronic headaches or GI disturbances, or leading to perpetuating autoimmune diseases. So how do you find those? So what are the most common symptoms that I see? So let's start with everyone thinks of the GI ones, right? So we can start there. GI would be diarrhea is a big one. So if your body senses something that it's not supposed to be there, diarrhea is its way of getting rid of it right away. But you can also have gas, bloating, constipation, or pain from foods that are irritating you that are food sensitivities. So I tell people, keep track of these symptoms, and if you start seeing a pattern, more than likely it can be food irritatingness. But a lot of times, symptoms are in the head from our foods, yeah? So if you think of headaches are a very common symptom of food sensitivities. Now again, remember I said 4 days. 4 days it can take for a food to actually cause a reaction in the body based on these delayed IgG sensitivities. So if you have food and then, let's say you get food on Monday, and then like Thursday, you're like, I have a headache. I don't know why I have a headache today. Well, it could be to the food you ate days before. This is where it becomes a little interesting in how you track this, but I'm going to tell you how to really track this later on. I'm going to come up with a way on how to track this, how to find the foods that work for you. So headache and migraines are a really big one. Nasal running, nasal congestion is a very big one. If you notice you get nasal congestion, I have people that say, I get nasal congestion, usually after dinner. It's weird. So we start looking at, what are you eating with dinner? Oh, I'm eating, breads and this stuff. So we took out breads. Wow. Or dairy. Dairy is a big one for congestion because it creates mucus. We took out these foods and they're like, wow, I feel so much better. I don't have these symptoms anymore. I'm like, wow, that's interesting, right? Other things on our head can be mood changes, mood swings, increased anxiety, or depression-like symptoms. This was me. And anytime now, if I do have foods that irritate me, my symptoms are mainly anxiety, moodiness, irritability, brain fog. These are very, very big ones. So many people don't equate these brain-related things to the foods that we eat. But it all comes down to, one, inflammation, and two, these chemical messengers in the immune system called cytokines. So the brain and the gut are connected via nerves and via chemical messengers. So whatever's happening in the gut is happening in the brain also, and vice versa. What happens in the brain happens in the gut. So 90% of the messages travel from your gut to your brain. So if your gut is all kinds of wonky, if you're eating really bad foods, if you've got infections and inflammation, your brain's going to be a mess. I guarantee you that. So that's the stuff in our head: brain fog, moodiness, fatigue, fatigue reading or driving. We talked about nasal congestion, nasal running, headaches. These are all big things that can come from this. Another thing would be like joint pain, wrists, elbows, knees, hips. Like if you sit down for a while and like getting up's like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. And it's like, once I get my joints running, I'm a little bit better. That can be totally inflammation coming from the foods that you eat. This was me in chiropractic school. I could barely get up out of my seat, after sitting there all day. And it was I was so inflamed from the foods I was eating. So I see this all the time. So we talk gut. Anything's in our head and our brain are big. Joint pain, and then energy issues is a big one. I see people like, my energy is so up and down, and I crash. I don't know what's going on with me. It's a lot of times after I eat certain foods, it can absolutely be the foods that you eat, causing a food sensitivity in your body. Sleep issues. So many different things can come from this. So what I teach people to do is how to take out certain foods that can be potentially problematic, and then how to reintroduce foods to see which one of those are actually causing these symptoms. Again, if you don't take them out for a period of time, you don't know, because that inflammation never calms down to baseline. You never get back to feeling better. So we have to focus on that first, and then we can talk about how do you properly reintroduce foods to find out which ones are causing this, and how do you track it. So tomorrow I have a webinar on this. It's called the Right Diet Webinar. The whole premise is there's no one right diet for everyone. It's about what are the right foods for you so you can be healthy, so you can reduce inflammation, so you can increase longevity, increase brain power, decrease any symptoms and pains and things like this. We want to find the correct diet for you. So I want to talk about this in my webinar, some common health myths, walk through this, and why food is so important for you and your health. So I'm going to put a link below in the comments for our webinar, free webinar. Sign up. It's tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. And if you know someone who could benefit from this, if they've got any kind of chronic issues, if they've got an autoimmune disease, if they have headaches or migraines, if they have joint pain, GI upset, if they constantly have a runny nose or allergies or eczema, skin is another huge one, guys. Skin is a reflection of the gut. So if you've got these food sensitivities causing problems all the time, your skin is going to be telling you, hey, something's up. So I really hope you, your family, your friends, all join us tomorrow for our webinar, the Right Diet Method webinar, and we're going to walk through some of these things. If you have any questions, post them below. If not, hope to see you guys tomorrow.